Alrighty, we learned in the last video what the additive inverse is. Remember, the additive inverse is the number that takes us back to zero. Okay, so a quick example of that is what is the additive inverse of -2? Well, -2 plus something equals 0. So my equation for that is, we did it on a number line. So if I want 0, but I'm at -2, I have to move to the right 2. So my question mark is +2, okay, or just a 2. So that's great if you know how to do that. But eventually, we're going to get into questions like this, where it looks like it'll be like a box -4 equals 0. So how do I it's really asking for the additive inverse, but we can take this a step farther because right now we can just solve it when it's equal to 0, but we want to be able to solve things like box -4 equals 11. Okay, so again, if we do the additive inverse way, we want 0. I'm at -4, so I have to move to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 minus 4 equals 0. Again, if you think about it like that and it works, great. But there's a little formula that can help us out here. Um, the opposite of subtraction here is addition. So if I add 4 to both sides, I get actually the same thing eventually. Some of your teachers might have called this balancing the equation. If I do something to one side, I have to do the same thing to the other side. So we practiced this the other day. -4 plus 4, that gives me 0. So box plus 0 equals, and then that gives me a 15. Well, box plus 0 is just going to be box. So box equals 15. Now, as your math classes get a little bit more challenging, your teachers probably won't use question marks. They probably won't use boxes. They're going to use stuff called variables. So let's do a question like that. If we have x minus 11 equals, say, 30, your teacher, you're doing the same concept, whether it's a box or a question mark. We want to do the opposite to both sides. So, what is the opposite of subtraction? The opposite of subtraction is addition. So, I'm going to add 11 to both sides. Okay, so I've got x minus 11. So, I'm going to add that 11 to both sides. I'm keeping my equation balanced. Noticing here that I've got -11 plus 11 is 0, which is what I wanted. The whole reason why I did the 11 to both sides. 30 plus 11 is 41, and you'll see that x equals 41. Now, to be more consistent with what you're going to see in the future, most people don't write it horizontal like that. They'll kind of write it more vertical. So let's do the same or a similar question. Let's say x uh, minus 6 equals 20. Instead of writing the +6 on the side over here, what they'll do to kind of keep us organized is they'll put the +6 right below the numbers. Okay, so it's literally saying the same thing. It's just a little bit different. So we get x plus 0, just like we did over there, equals 26. So x equals 26. Now, I don't think I've done a subtracting one, so let's do that. Let's say we had x plus 7 equals 19. Well, what is the opposite of addition? Subtraction. So -7, -7. Again, you can write it like this, but again, your teachers probably will write it like this in the future. This gives me x plus 0. Um, they're also probably not going to write that step, so I'm going to leave that step off. X equals 12. Okay. We're going to end with the most difficult question here. Let's say we had x plus 3 equals -4. Okay. So, same thing. You're probably like, why is this hard? Well, maybe because there's a subtraction there, but it's harder for a different reason. So, we're going to subtract our 3 on both sides. We're doing the opposite. Okay. Again, as long as we do it to both sides, we're good. And that gives me x equals. Now, this is why a situation like this is probably why a teacher would write it horizontally, because 4 minus -3 -4 minus negative minus 3 is a little bit different. Okay, so we have to do that process that we learned a while ago, where we keep this first number, change this to addition, and then change it to subtraction. -4 minus 3 is actually -7. So that's why this question is a little bit harder, because we had to do -4 minus 3 to get -7, which this concept right there is super difficult. Um, People really have a hard time with subtracting with a negative number. So as long as you can do this stuff up here, where you're just adding or subtracting one thing to both sides, you're doing great.